Hello! Hi! Hello! Ah. It's almost the end of March, everyone. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. March has been an absolutely crazy month, being Women's History Month and me loving to talk about women scientists. So today is the last Friday in March, the last quilting video for this month. If you're just joining here, I have been working on a women scientist quilt, and this has been a 4-part video series. We designed the quilt, we cut everything out, we sewed it together, and today we are finishing it! So just a reminder of where we're at. This is my women scientist quilt featuring 20 different women scientists, and I am ready to finally get this thing done. For those of you who may not know what finishing a quilt means, basically we have to take the quilt top, put batting underneath it and put it on a quilt back and stitch it together to make the full quilted blanket. So technically speaking, I don't think it's really a quilt until you stitch over it and quilt it. So that's what we actually get to do in this video. But first, I had a crazy idea that I thought would look really good on this quilt, and that is I want to embroider all of their names on their frames like an actual portrait wall, which means I have to do that first. So let's get to doing that, and tell me to stop having absolutely ridiculous ideas. So here's my plan for embroidering all of these names on here. I'm going to start with this fabric marking pencil, and I'm going to write their name on the portrait how I want it to be written. And then I'm just going to go in with a needle and various shades of golden, yellow, brown embroidery floss and just follow my writings and do their names in there. That sounds like it'll work, right? I don't know the last time I've actually embroidered something. My other plan is also to kind of alternate. Some of them will be on the bottom of the portrait, some of them will be on the top of the portrait. Just kind of mix and match it up. So I'm going to start here with Mace Jane Goodall, which works out because I'm supposed to be covering 5 scientists per video, and I haven't talked about her yet. So Jane Goodall is a British primatologist who studied chimpanzees, and she's still alive today, which is great because she's just quite old. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a different chalk for this. Turns out this actually is not writing as well as I want it to, but whatever. Back to Jane Goodall, British primatologist, studied chimpanzees. She was really groundbreaking for her research because she went to Africa. She basically lived with the chimpanzees, became an accepted chimpanzee for a bit of time, and this was very different than other primate research before. Oftentimes scientists were like, don't get involved with your research subjects, don't give them names, don't really identify them. And Jane Goodall broke all of those rules. She gave her animals names, she treated them like family, and as such she was able to learn so much more about chimpanzees, their family structure, their social structure, what they eat, how they use tools, all of that stuff, and really kind of pioneered also a new wave of research techniques in studying animals like that. So thank you, Jane Goodall, for all of that good work with chimpanzees and continuing still today to promote conservation around the world and women in STEM. So let me get some different fabric marking chalk, and I think putting a hard surface underneath the fabric will probably help too. Alright, I have returned with a clipboard as my hard surface and with some tailor's chalk. Let's try that out for size. After a couple of tries and some wet paper towel, I don't even know if you can see very faintly, there is Jane Goodall written in some white fabric marking chalk. So now I'm gonna embroider it. Alright, Jane Goodall is done. She has been portrait labeled, and we know the drill by now. 19 more to go. Welcome to day 2! Project update. I have gotten 8 done. So the first 2 rows, it's like really hard to actually show it. But I have 8 done, so that means there are 12 more names to embroider on this quilt. All right. I'm gonna hopefully get most of that knocked out today because I still have to quilt the entire thing. But let me real quick talk about this here lady. I don't gonna talk about her too much because I just recently did a video on her, but her name is Alice Ball, and she is an African-American chemist who is the first Black woman to receive a master's degree from the University of Hawaii. She is best known for exploring various treatments for leprosy and studying the effects of the chalmugra oil on leprosy, isolating the active ingredient in it, and making a treatment for leprosy that was a lot more effective than the previous ones and a lot more palatable, because previous treatments for leprosy with chalmugra oil were either taken by the mouth, which was horribly disgusting, or injected in some gross oil under the skin, which left these weird blisters and bubbles, which were also disgusting. So while leprosy is not, as big of a deal to us today, partially because Alice Ball was able to find an effective treatment for it, it affected the lives of a lot of people afflicted with leprosy who are no longer cast out of their society, and provides great inspiration today for just the way finding a simple treatment for a disease can change the world. All right, 12 more names to embroider. Let's do it. Hello, war project update time. I have gotten 15. Okay, I was like, I have 5 left. There were 20. So I have done 15. You can tell I'm a little tired. It's almost lunchtime, so I'm going to take a break and hopefully try to knock out these last 5 today. Oh my gosh, I just have so much to do, but let's take a quick look at it. I think it's looking really good. So I haven't done from Marie Lavoisier and then this entire right-hand row. I think it's looking good. It's kind of hard to see, I think, because the embroidery floss kind of blends in. But I do think that is kind of a fun effect, I guess. Like, it's more subtle, but it's, nice. It's, it's my handwriting. It's kind of nice. I do have an absolute fear, though, that I'm going to, misspell somebody's name. I've done it accidentally a couple of times, but I've caught myself before I embroidered. So, gonna take a break, eat some food, stretch out my back and neck, and hopefully finish these 5 today. Hello, we are on day 3. I think for this little subsection of the video project, I finished all of the embroidery, so it is done. Oh my gosh, my neck and back hurt so much from it, but I think it turned out really well. I love just the, it's more subtle, and I love how it looks like my handwriting, like I was writing in the names on these portraits. So the next thing I have to do is prepare the back of the quilt, which is just a plain piece of fabric, and then I will put down the back of the quilt, the batting, and then the top of the quilt on top of that, and secure those all together. In case you guys are unfamiliar with what batting is, it's just a thick cotton in, oh gosh, this is in there. It's just a thick cotton, horrible noises, that provides the weight and warmth to quilts. Not that this one is probably ever going to be used as an actual blanket, but yeah, just kind of thick cotton. Needed it to be the whole size of the quilt. You put the quilt top, sandwich this in the middle, and then put the quilt back and stitch it down. And that's what the quilting is. So, yeah, let's do it, I guess. I think I have to go get the backing fabric out of my car because I definitely left it in there for all week. But before I go grab that and get started on working, let's talk about another woman scientist. So I'll briefly talk about Hertha Ayrton, who is on this beautiful quilt. She is a British physicist, mostly known for her work on electric arc lamps, which were the primary source of lamps used back in the day. And these guys really like to hiss and sputter and give off inconsistent light. So if you were just sitting in a room and this light would just be you probably wouldn't like that very much. So she studied the reason why this was happening and stopped it from happening. And these lamps continued to be used in public spaces as well as for movie projectors throughout the years. So we may not use electric arc lamps in our everyday lives, but her foundings were really important for improving the lives of people back then. Technology in lights for that kind of in-between period and increasing the different types of lamps and electricity we use today. So thank you, Eartha Ayrton. Gonna go get that fabric now. Okay, so I grabbed the fabric from my car and I realized I've run into a bit of a snafu. I always like to pre-wash my fabric because it gets off anything weird that's on it. But we don't actually have a washer dryer at our house. And I usually use my in-laws' washer dryer to do our clothes, but they're sick and I need this done now. So we're gonna pivot and I'm gonna go wash this in my bathtub. That was a fun detour. Now I have about 3 yards of muslin hanging up to dry. So I guess we'll try again tomorrow. See you then. Okay, hello. Day 4 of this video kind of dealio thingamajig. I'm exhausted. I woke up really, really tired this morning with a headache, so pardon me if my energy is not the normal self. The fabric dried overnight, woohoo. I ironed it up this morning, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do what I said I was gonna do yesterday, which is taking the quilt top, the batting layer middle, and that back, and laying them on top of each other, and I'm gonna be securing them with safety pins. So I'll be showing you what I'm doing in fast motion, so it looks like I'm going super fast. And I'll talk to you about another woman scientist. Cool, game, set, plan. High five, go work team. Let's do it. The next scientist we're going to talk about is Rachel Carson, an American marine biologist and science writer who is best known for her science writing, which really connected the average person to the nature around them. This basically led to the entire launching of the conservation and green movement in the 1950s and 60s, and her book, Silent Spring, which is one of her most famous publications, led to the creation of the EPA and the banning of the pesticide DDT. So thank you so much, Rachel Carson, for really connecting the average person with nature and making them care about it and making us want to protect it. Okay, so all of my safety pins are in. I have made the packet, held it together enough, and now it's time to actually sew this thing together and quilt it. So my plan for this is just to kind of sew around the frames and kind of frame them in place. I don't have, like, if you are familiar with quilts and you know all the fancy, like, details, like on my tide pool quilt runner, there's sea stars. Like, that's done by a fancy long arm quilting machine that costs like tens of thousands of dollars. I don't own one of those, and I don't have the time or money to send this quilt to one of those, so we are doing it ourselves. But that's fine, because I did everything else on this myself, and I just feel a lot of pride in that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start sewing down these frames all around, and we'll see where that leaves us. Okay, my machine is not a quilting machine, and I was gonna use a quilting sewing machine, but I can't use it for the same reason I had to wash my fabric in the bathtub, because my in-laws are out of commission right now and they have the washer dryer and the quilting machine. So I'm gonna see what happens here. My machine may like it, it may hate it. I'm gonna go with it probably will hate it, but we're gonna find out. Alright, and our final scientist for this video, and final scientist that we've covered on this quilt overall, is Ada Yonath. She's an Israeli crystallographer who successfully mapped the structure of a ribosome using X-ray crystallography. And ribosomes are the parts of the cell that produce the proteins for your body. So this is some pretty important work to understand how proteins in our body are created. She won the Nobel Prize for this in chemistry in 2009, and it continues to be important for the work of developing antibiotics and understanding antibiotic resistance, which is what Ada Yonath still works on today, because guess what? She's still alive! So thank you, Ada Yonath, for your pioneering work in ribosomes and antibiotics and antibiotic resistance. That's all the scientists for today and all the scientists on the quilt. Let's finish this bad boy. Okay, so I think we're about 3 hours later. I've reached the end of my day today, but here's how much we've done so far, in case you're wondering. I don't know how well you can see that, but anywhere there's like brown stitching on the back is where I've quilted so far. So I think I still have, maybe got it halfway done, maybe a little bit more than halfway done. But it's 5 o'clock and I'm ready to call it quits for the day. I'm gonna go get some ice cream and I'll see you tomorrow. Another day, same task, still trying to quilt this quilt. Let's get it done today. That's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan, is to get it done today. Let's do it. So once you get it all sewn up, there are a couple of final steps you gotta take to finish this quilt. Step 1, cut off all of the excess back and batting so that it's all in line with the top. Step 2, cut out 2.5-inch strips of fabric in whatever color you want your binding to be. Your binding is a little piece of fabric that go all the way around the outside of the quilt. Step 3, sew all of those strips together and iron them and fold them in half and iron them again. Step 4, sew it onto the edge of your quilt all the way around. And step 5, carefully fold up your quilt and put it in a bag and give it to your grandma to hand tack down the rest of the edges, because despite the fact that you cut all of the stuff out, ironed it, sewed it all yourself, you can't be bothered to hand stitch anything.
Are you ready to see the finished product? I know I am. Full confession, I've been traveling for the past 3 weeks to visit family and to make more content for this channel, which is gonna be really exciting content. So it's been about 3 weeks since I've seen this quilt, and I'm excited to see the finished project because I finally have, distanced myself away from it to fully appreciate it. So without further ado, ta-da! Here is the finished quilt. It's like kind of hard to show a full framed quilt. Here it is, featuring all 20 women scientists of epicness. I think it turned out way better than I was expecting. I really do. I'm so happy about it. And I honestly don't think that if I was not the person who made it, if I would believe that all of this was hand cut out, hand drawn, etc. So that's the finished product. Thank you so much for tagging along. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this quilting monstrosity. 31 Days of Women Scientists is still going on for the few remaining days of March we have. So that's going on my Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok in the form of short form videos. So be sure to check that out. Out of breath from trying to hold that around. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, and also check out my Buy Me a Coffee page if you want to donate anything for. This is how I support making projects for your viewing entertainment. So thank you all so much again for watching. Hope you enjoyed watching me make this monstrosity. And as always, keep it sciencey.